Hello everybody, welcome back to Middle School Readiness. Today's video, we have some more people back from our good friends at the City of Austin. We have two forensic scientists from the forensics department at the City of Austin. And without further ado, I'll let them go introduce themselves.
I'm Jessica Rakowski. I'm the technical leader for the firearms section here at the Forensic Science Department.
My name's Lila Vincent, and I am a forensic scientist for the Seized Drug Division.
So, when you look online, you see that it mainly just says the Forensic Science Department. The lab that y'all work at, does it have a particular name? Does it have, what do y'all call the actual building that you work at?
So the actual building is uh, it's the Robert Martinez East Substation and Forensic Science Department because half of the side is police department, half of the side is forensic scientist.
Okay. And do y'all know any history or any interesting facts about the building itself?
So forensics started probably about 50 years ago with the city. Maybe Lila, help me out here if you know, but in the early 2000s, I believe this building was built.
Yeah, the building was built specifically for us. Most of the forensic scientists, we were in the bottom portion of the Austin Police Department main, which is in downtown Austin. But obviously, as we grew, we needed more space, and so they built this building specifically for us.
Okay. And does the forensic department just work with Austin Police Department, or do they have uh, other agencies that they assist with forensics investigations?
In the past, we used to help, the firearms section specifically used to help out other agencies with NIBIN entry, which is a database. We don't necessarily have the manpower at this time to help neighboring agencies. So APD is our primary customer.
These drugs, we do have collaborations with other departments. So we work with Williamson County sometimes. We also have contracts that are in place where we used to work with Hayes County back in the day. So really just depends on what the needs are.
Okay. And I know we have the Siege Drug Department and the Firearms Department. What are some other different forensic specialties that the Austin Forensic Department offers?
So we have our crime scene unit. They're going to be the ones that respond to those crime scenes, collecting evidence. We also have latent prints. They're examining any fingerprints that are lifted from scenes or from other items of evidence. Seized drugs, firearms, and then we have toxicology.
Mm-hmm. We have crime scene photography as well. So we have multimedia, and we also have I'm missing one more department. We have case management. They have their own setup, but we also have a space for. Oh no, we used to have a DNA section, but now DNA is through another department.
We also have evidence control. They're in charge of facilitating all of the items that we receive, so they have a big role to play.
Okay. And so the forensics department, is it a branch of the Austin Police Department, or is it its own separate city department?
We're our own separate city department now.
Okay. And I know there's probably certain certifications for the different specialties, but what is the like base certification you would need to get a job with the forensics department?
With the city, in our job specifically, a lot of times a bachelor's degree in a related scientific field is sufficient. There aren't, I don't believe there are any certifications for a base level entry. But if you want to work in Texas, there are some requirements that are worth looking into.
Same as with C's drug. You would need a degree, a bachelor's in some sort of hard science, chemistry, biology, or even biochemistry. Those would be a part of the entry level, but no certifications are required for you to start. Those are things that you can get later on in your career.
Okay. Um, and so how closely would you say that all the different specialties work together within the forensics department?
In a way, we all work together for one common goal. But specifically, we tend to do all of our work separately.
Mhm.
We don't overlap in any way. I'm specifically working with firearms. Lila's working with drugs. We don't. I'm not going to go over to her lab and perform casework. Yeah, we don't. We don't work that close.
Okay. And so what led both of y'all to choose to go into forensic science and then you're each your own specialty?
Well, for me, I'd always been interested in forensics since I was really young, maybe like 9 or 10. I think basically when I was in middle school, I kind of already knew that I wanted to do forensics. So I'd kind of focused a lot of things on that. But I was also a big fan of chemistry when I was in high school. So it kind of slowly started to isolate itself to seize drugs the older that I got. Um, but it had always been a dream of mine to work in forensics.
Oh yeah, same. I I had a fingerprinting kit when I was young. I feel like everyone may have. I don't know, but ever since that, I feel like I've just been geared towards forensics and forensic science in general. Um, Throughout middle school, high school, I wasn't exactly sure what discipline I really wanted to be in, um, but I did shoot competitively throughout high school, middle school, and high school. So I kind of grew up around firearms, really passionate about them. Um, and so the two worlds kind of just combined. It's kind of like a little perfect storm. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. And so now going to the individual questions, what particular degrees or certifications are needed to be in the siege drug department?
So I have my bachelor's in chemistry, and then I have my master's in forensic science. I have my master's in pharmaceutical studies with a specification in forensic science. But the senior level C's drug analysts who are above me, they have American Board of Criminalistic certification, specifically in drug analysis. Those are things that you get way later on into your career. So they've been working in C's drugs for 10 plus years, and I'm still very fresh in my career. I've only been with the city for approximately 8 years. So those are things that I am going to pursue as I get older, deeper into my career.
Okay. And what kind of evidence is sent to that particular department?
So with C's drugs, we specify there are good drugs where you would have like caffeine or anything that you ingest into your body that gives you some sort of a response is considered a drug. So we get all types of drugs that come into our lab. We specialize in some of those bad drugs that you know of, like the meth, the cocaine, heroin, stuff like that. So it really is a wide variety of things that can come into our lab, as well as some things that paraphernalia that you can see on like TV shows and stuff like that. So it really just depends.
Okay. And what particular like equipment or what does your particular lab look like as a or specializing in that drug department?
So our labs, it's hard to kind of isolate it. But when I come in, like I have my own personal bench desk that I work at. where I have a balance and I have my spot test kits, all the things that I need for my presumptive testing. And then we have a larger room that's isolated to our instruments that we have. So we have a gas chromatograph, mass spectrometer, big instruments, or we have a FTIR, which is a Fourier transformed interferogram. We also have a UV vis. Really, we have all instrumentations where we can test a variety of drugs depending on what their actual structure is like. So if we have liquids, if we have powders, anything like that.
Okay. And what would you say are like standard tests that you would run on a piece of evidence when it comes into your lab?
Well, it really just depends. Like I said, if I have a plant-based sample or if I have a solid sample or a liquid sample, everything needs a presumptive test and then a confirmatory test. It's really up to the analyst and based on my experience, what I've seen, what types of presumptive tests I use that give me class characteristics of the type of drugs that I'm seeing, which then move to my confirmatory test, which will give me a specific identification of the drug itself. So with a combination of both, I can then say with a certainty, like, this is what it is.
Okay. And because of the type of evidence that you work with, what does evidence transfer look like?
It doesn't look like anything. You don't. It's evidence transfer is something that would happen behind the scenes. So all of our evidence is transferred electronically, and as well as physically being moved from the evidence warehouse to our lab. But as it moves from department to department, they're really moved with the scan of our clicker. So we'll scan them. They'll move from one department, and then they'll move into what's called our vault, which only sees drug analysts are allowed to get into. And then I will go in, specifically pick something, and then put it into my custody once I physically have a hold of it. But the evidence transfer is nothing very exciting, unfortunately.
And so, being a drug analyst, what is your PPE or protective gear that you wear while in the lab?
So we have lab coats I wear available to us at any point in time that we would wear depending on the types of samples that we've seen. But for any case, we're obviously wearing gloves. When it comes to a more dangerous substance or a substance in which we want to take more precautions, we have smocks that we'll use as well as elevating level of masks that we can wear to make sure that we're using proper filters so that we're letting good air in and not letting super bad air so that we don't have some sort of reaction while we're testing.
Mm-hmm. And so, as you mentioned, with making sure you have those masks to make sure you don't have any reaction to the substance you're testing, as a drug chemist, do you have to go through any overdose or Narcan training, or is there somebody else that has to do that?
No, we go through our own Narcan training every year. It's also something that happens within the department as well, not necessarily just these drug analysts, because unfortunately, anyone within the lab could have some sort of exposure unintended, depending on what happens. So everyone has their own Narcan training that we go through. But yes, we have Narcan in the lab whenever we're going through a testing of sorts where we would need Narcan or we're making sure that there's no possible exposure that happens. We have one analyst who does the testing, and then we have another analyst whose sole purpose is just to watch them and have Narcan at the ready just in case something happens. But thankfully, as long as I've been here, we've never had any sort of issue like that. We've never had to use our own Narcan.
Okay. And so now on to the firearms questions. Sorry, wrong question. What degrees or certifications are required to be a firearms examiner?
Because before a bachelor's degree in any chemical science, physical science, any of those are sufficient. As far as the certifications go, it's similar. So it'll be something that is more eligible later on in our careers. I believe the one for firearms is more geared towards maybe 5 years after you're fully trained and signed off. So that's something I'm actually approaching. I've been with the city for 5 years now. So I'll be looking to get certification in firearms as well.
Okay. And as a firearms examiner, what kind of evidence is sent particularly to your lab?
We receive almost anything. So mainly firearms, anything that may appear to be a firearm. We've gotten actual pipes before that are capable of firing live ammunition. They aren't traditional firearms, but they meet that definition of one. So we get kind of some interesting items every now and then. In addition to that, we'll also receive cartridge cases and projectiles. So these are the components that are a result from firing a firearm. But those three things are mainly what we primarily receive.
Okay. And what kind of equipment or things are in your particular laboratory as a firearms examiner?
We have an area where we're able to perform our examinations of the items. We would kind of refer to them as a bench examination. This is where we're determining what the items are, different information about them, maybe what the firearm is, make, model, any information that's important to us. We also have comparison microscopes. So this instrument allows us to look at two items side by side at the same time and make a comparison. We primarily spend a lot of our time looking at cartridge cases and projectiles to determine if they were fired from a particular firearm. So that comparison microscope allows us to do that. We have a workshop. Sometimes we spend a lot of time either breaking things or trying to fix them. So we have a lot of tools at our disposal to help us with any of that. And we also have an indoor range. Not many labs have that. We're able to test fire any firearm submitted right inside of our laboratory. And in addition to that, we also have a water tank. It's filled with gallons of water, and we're able to shoot into it to collect test fires from those submitted firearms.
Okay. And what? Oh, that's my rephrase that. Do you have in the firearms section? Do you have, like you see in the movies, the large collections of the firearms in the evidence locker, or would that be in a separate facility?
So we have a reference collection. It has hundreds of firearms in it. We use them for a few different purposes. We can use them for training, as well as some of the firearms that are submitted are either broken or maybe have missing parts to them. So we can interchange some of those parts to try to get the firearm to work properly. But yeah, we have a kind of like if you think about a library with rolling shelves, that's what ours looks like, and it's top to bottom filled with firearms.
Okay. And as a firearms expert, what does your PPE or protective equipment look like while you're in the lab?
We have our kind of the standards. We have gloves, masks, lab coats at our disposal. With firearms, we need additional PPE such as hearing protection. We have eye protection as well for that reason. Sometimes when we're examining firearms, some of those parts can fly off and cause a hazard. So those are probably the two additional things that maybe other sections may not always need. But as far as other stuff, yeah, it's pretty standard.
Okay. Um, and so now back to questions for both of y'all. Did y'all have any jobs before coming into the forensic department, or did y'all kind of just go straight into forensics?
I mean, I had regular like jobs, like I worked at a shoe store, I worked in the mall, but when I actually left school and I started really trying to pursue working in chemistry, I worked in a toxicology lab for a little bit. But when I started working in forensics, I started in crime scene. So I was a property crime technician for a year and a half. So I would go out to scenes, and I did that for a year and a half. And then when a opening for chemistry became available, I applied for that based on the fact that I gained some experience working on the field that I was able to use to become eligible.
Me, I so after I graduated college, um, I had a job working as a data analyst, kind of in between, graduating college, trying to find a job in forensics. It can be a little difficult trying to find a job in this field. Um, but like Lila's situation, it's a great idea if you're able to get your foot in the door in any way you can, whether or not it's where you want to end up. There's always availability to move within different sections of a laboratory, but it's
Oh
really
yeah.
hard to get your foot in the door that first time.
Oh yeah, because a lot of, especially with our specific careers, these drugs or firearm examiners, you need to have some sort of forensics experience to even be an option because our job is just
Mhm.
the setup the way that it is. So working in a position like crime scene, it will allow you to not only learn the ins and outs of crime scene, but you learn a lot about the different departments as well and how they all work together as one unit for the same goal of justice.
That's all you want to do. Crime scene's great.
Crime scene's amazing. If
Yeah,
you like going to scenes and you like being the person to really like gather all that evidence and to
Yeah.
really understand and go through the mechanics of what happened, when it happened, and all of the parts of it, it's a great place to be. But it's also a very great place to learn a lot about the forensics unit as a whole.
Yeah. Um, and so as a forensics department, do you have to go through the police academy as well, or do y'all go through your own separate training?
No, we don't go through the police academy. Every department has their own required training that has particular steps in it, as well as lengths of time. Like my training as a seized drug analyst was approximately a year, but Jess's training and firearm examination that was almost 3 years worth of training, depending.
over.
So everybody has their own training. When I was in crime scene, my training was several months, close to a year as well, because I had to go through all of the different applications for collecting evidence, what types of evidence are pertinent. There, it really just depends on the section that you're in itself.
Okay. And would y'all say you have a favorite part of your job or your daily activities as a forensic scientist?
Oh man, I think my favorite would have to be those random items that we receive, because it kind of brings out a little more experimentation. We don't know what's gonna happen. Um, we're doing everything as safely as we can, but it's also like exhilarating to to determine if something's actually going to work or not. So it kind of like I don't know, brings a little bit of joy in it. So
I think my favorite part is when we get something that we've never seen before, or that we're kind of working through like, well, is this an illegal? Is this a controlled substance? Like where? How do they make it? Like where do these come from? Where are the precursors? So it's really cool when we have times where we're as a seized drug unit where we're kind of deciphering like, oh, how does this particular drug break apart? What is it? Where did it come from? Who's seen it first. It's a really cool like scavenger hunt that we have to do, or we're seeing,
Yeah.
have other labs seen it, where did it come from, is this something we're going to have to start to see on a regular basis, has the law caught up to it, is this something that we need to start to be aware of? It's that's I think that's a cool, that's my version of Jess's like experimentation. It's a school scavenger hunt for sure.
Okay. And now on the opposite side, would you say you have like a worse part of your job or a not so much liked part of your job?
Uh, I guess so. In the firearms section, we respond to specific shooting scenes. So I think my least favorite part about that might be they often take place in the middle of the night. So we're sleep's a little bit interrupted, but then again, the shooting scene, I like going to scenes, kind of determining
Yeah.
what happened. That part of it's really exciting, but I think it's the waking up part.
For me personally, some drugs just don't smell good. Some drugs just are very, they're a little gross. They have a smell. The smell lingers. It's just not a fun time. So I feel like as much fun as I have examining them, I'm not a fan of sometimes when they come in fresh, because I'm just like, ugh, this smells terrible.
And then the firearms lab is right next door, so I'll go over
Oh yeah,
and
I constantly hear them just having a fun time. They're just experimenting.
Um, have y'all ever had that moment where you crack a case and you're running down the hall telling everyone what you found?
maybe not cracking the case. So um, we're I guess let's start with our jobs. Our guests are just to provide information that based on truth. So results
Yeah.
and conclusions, everything is just based on the truth, whatever it is. So it's not our responsibility to solve the case. Um, but I will say, if there's a case that I've been working on for like 3 weeks and I finish it, might be excited.
Absolutely found new substances that we haven't been able to identify, and I send a very polite email to like say, hey everybody, like I think I found something. I think we need to get together as a group to figure it out. Just so that, because when things come to us, it's our responsibility to kind of be like, hey, I think if we've seen it, that means other people either have seen it or are about to. And a lot of the forensics community is just that, it's a community and working together to kind of all have one common goal, like Jess said, which is to just provide hard facts to our customers. And that's really what is the best part of our job.
Okay. And have y'all had any like big, important, or popular cases that you've been a part of, or just important cases in your particular career?
I think that any case that we work on really is important. I mean, every case that we're working on is attached to a person, a family, an incident. And I think as long as we're able to help find the truth in some sort of capacity with our job, that really is what's the most important part. Because there's no case that's super big or really small. Honestly, anything that comes in our anything that comes to our lab is, we're going to put our 110% effort into it to get the facts that are associated.
Yeah, it's our way of providing for the community, um, giving them exactly truth through science. So we're just doing exactly what we need to do, um, avoiding any outside information that could bias us one way or another, just to provide that truth for them.
Okay. Well, I think that's all the questions that I have for today. So thank both of y'all or thank you for taking the time out of your day to come on to the interview and speaking about your different career paths. Um, so this will be the end of our video for everyone watching. make sure you go and click the like and subscribe button down below. Check out the description for links to the Austin Forensics Department website, as well as for our Refuge Medical affiliate program. And the best way to support the channel is to click the link in the description for our merch. Thank you and have a great day.